on my video. So my video is broken now. It's stopped, and I'm videoing another section. So I'm only on Spreaker right now. So the surveying of the public constituents and surveying consumers is what business and politics do. And so Donald Trump received loud and clear the public outcry of how can we abandon the Kurds? They're our number one ally in that region other than Israel. So it turns out that we had other plans. So you gotta appreciate Donald Trump's strategy. This is at least the third time that I know of, and I can't recall the other two right offhand, but I noticed it each time that he said one thing and then something great, terrific was achieved. Because you got to create an element of surprise. So hats off to Donald Trump and his strategy. So that's that. Let's get to the California fires. I'm just going to find one article, and I'll share with you some thoughts. You ready for another scripture verse? Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. That's Romans chapter 12, verse 12. So some thoughts that I had 2 mornings ago when I woke up, much to my surprise, concerning fires. I like to read things verbatim, my thoughts. So on October 25th, 2 mornings ago, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I thanked God for waking up this morning at 4:30 a.m. after checking the online news to find out just a few miles away a possible power transformer blew and started a few acre fire at dark 4:15 this morning. Then I hear about this after work. 2 North San Diego County fires on October 25th. It is 2:17 at the time that I was writing this note. On Friday, Valley Center, which is part of Escondido, latest fire of the day. It was near Coyote Run between Miller and Cold Grade Lanes, north of a road called Rabbit Run. Structures were threatened and structures ended up burning, and it turned out to be, I believe, 16 acres. And the earlier fire was from 9:30 that morning in Ramona, which became to be about 100 acres. But San Diego has an excellent fire plan with Cal Fire and San Diego County Fire Department. We have air tankers, helicopters, we've got everything. So praise God, that was one day of fires, and everybody in San Diego County has been on edge. And those who are getting the worst of the fires since of the past week because of power outages, planned power outages out of a so-called abundance of caution, because lines can spark more fires and just add to the fire or even start a fire. And that's what happened in Northern California last year. And Northern California, around the Sacramento area, is a horrible fire, at least 20,000 acres going on. And also around the San Bernardino, which is east of Los Angeles and northeast of where I'm at in North County, San Diego. Bad fires. But I'm going to end on this. I'm going to find an article and just go through that real quick, because it'll be the latest update on California fires and power outages, the acres and the amount of buildings burnt and the deaths, because there have been deaths also. So I'm just going to California fires news. And LA Times, they give you a certain amount of free clicks until they hound you for a subscription fee. So let's see. I don't want to go to New York Slimes. Washington Post. 48 minutes ago, California wildfires, governor declares statewide emergency. The Washington Post, generally safe to read. California's governor declared a statewide emergency Sunday as wind-fueled fires spread across Sonoma County and prompted mass evacuations. And Sonoma County is, I believe, the worst one, and that's around the Sacramento and San Francisco Bay region. Governor Gavin Newsom pledged to deploy every resource available as authorities fought blazes on both ends of the state and weather conditions threatened to exacerbate fire threats. Today is actually a cool day. Tomorrow is going to be the start of more hot weather and Santa Ana winds. That's winds from the desert. In Sonoma, one of the largest evacuations in the county's history was underway as ferocious winds and dry air fueled a wildfire that has raged in the region for days. The county sheriff's office estimated that 180,000 people had been ordered to flee the Kincade fire. That's Kincade with a K. Kincade, which has spread to 30,000 acres and was only 10% contained. Officials rapidly expanded the number of areas under mandatory evacuation orders in the early hours of the morning as gusts as high as 93 miles per hour swept through the hills and valleys north of San Francisco Bay Area. The fires outside of Healdsburg, California, that's Healdsburg, California, appeared to rapidly intensify overnight, according to the National Weather Service, turning State Route 128 into a hellish gauntlet and consuming the Soda Rock Winery, the San Francisco Chronicle reported. The town of Geyserville, that's Geyserville, Geyserville, near where the fire started, also suffered damage, California fire spokesman Scott Ross said. In a flurry of pre-dawn alerts, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection and the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office told residents in the northern portion of Santa Rosa, as well as areas southwest and northeast of the city, to evacuate immediately. About 200 patients were evacuated from two medical centers in the area, Kaiser Permanente and Sutter Santa Rosa Regional Hospital, and relocated to safer facilities, according to hospital and local fire officials. Patricia Blanchard said she lost power Saturday night around 8 p.m. That was last night. Saturday in her small town of Monte Rio. The outage was soon followed by a visit from a Sonoma County deputy who ordered her to leave immediately. She left her ID and credit cards behind in the rush. In Windsor, California, just a few miles from the fire, a police car sped north Sunday morning as an officer on a megaphone urged residents to go, go, go. Firefighters remained in a defensive position against Mother Nature by Sunday morning, and CAL FIRE spokesman Jonathan Cox. But evacuations proceeded smoothly, officials said, with few road incidents on the packed highway that served as evacuees' main thoroughfare to safety. The overnight winds had pushed the Kincade fire south into some nearby communities, said CAL FIRE analyst Steve Vollmer. And of utmost concern were new fires in the area that could spring up as a result of the weather. Vollmer said authorities were concerned that the fire could travel west of the 101 highway, an area that had not burned for decades and therefore contained extremely dense and dry fuels for a raging fire to feast upon. Highway officials closed the 101 near Windsor and Healdsburg because of poor visibility. By Sunday afternoon, the blaze had started to encroach on Windsor. By the way, Highway 101 is the same as Highway 1. The East Coast also has a Highway 1, goes all the way from the Florida Keys all the way up to Canada. It changes from 1 to 101, back to 1 to 101. There's quite a few miles between Highway 101 and the ocean at some points, but it is the utmost coastal highway. More than 3,000 people were on hand to battle the Kincaid fire, assisted by 50 helicopters and several air tankers that flew suppression missions over the blaze as the weather allowed. The fast-moving flames have consumed 79 structures since the fire's outbreak last week. New orders Sunday dramatically expand the number of residents who will have to flee the growing fires and could further tax emergency workers tasked with helping them to seek safety. Mandatory evacuations on Santa Rosa's northwest corner and part of its northeast affected 60,000 people as of Sunday morning. As of this morning, said Paul Lowenthal, assistant fire marshal with the Santa Rosa Fire Department. The rest of the city, of about 175,000, should be ready to leave if needed, Lowenthal said, adding that smoke blowing west for much of the morning meant that the city was less at risk, though clearly isn't good for parts of Sonoma County. Now smoke is blowing straight into Santa Rosa, Lowenthal said. And there's a good map. I love it. There's hardly ever a good map on an article. It shows where the Kincaid fire is. Not too far from, I would guess, 30, 40 miles from the ocean is where Geyersville is. Geyersville, Santa Rosa, and the Kincaid fire. The Kincaid fire is on the northeast corner of that region. It is near Napa wine country, west of Sacramento and north of San Francisco Bay. So you get a good, clear map in your head of the area. And San Jose is further south of San Francisco. And then east you got Modesto and Stockton. So in Sonoma County, heavy winds kicked up leaves and knocked down branches as smartphones buzzed with emergency evacuation alerts in English and Spanish. Roads were congested as residents packed up their cars and RVs to head out of the county. Traffic lights at several intersections lost power, further slowing evacuation efforts. A caravan of cars made their way southbound on the 101 freeway Sunday morning as residents heeded the warning. Carol and David Pahala had fled Santa Rosa with their golden retriever after the pre-dawn alert came through. Take your animals, folks. Know where they are when you know that there may be an evacuation. They had found shelter at a fairground in Petaluma, a city about 17 miles south that authorities had established for displaced residents. This is apocalyptic, Carol Pahala, 67, said of the massive evacuation effort. At a shelter at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds in Santa Rosa, members of the Red Cross and volunteers served up a breakfast of bagels and other dry items. Evacuees listened to the radio while the sounds of birds chirping and dogs barking filled the air. And I'm a Billy Graham Rapid Response Team chaplain, and I've responded to 2 huge fires in San Diego as well as several hurricanes in the south, and I know what it's like to have dry food for breakfast. It's not smorgasbord, it's dry food. So pray for these people that they get good hot meals, good clothing in the shelters, spiritual care, and just somebody to talk to lean on their shoulder, somebody to listen to. And that's what people need in these critical incidences, is somebody to talk to. So I continue. Pam Triff of her partner said, at a shelter at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds, Santa Rosa, members of the Red Cross and volunteers served up breakfast of bagels and dry items. Evacuees listened to the radio while the sounds of birds chirping and dogs barking filled the air. Pam Triff and her partner said they evacuated their Forestville home Saturday night with a dog and 2 cats in tow. They had started to prepare for a possible evacuation after they watched the fires the night before, which looked like lava coming over the crest of the hill. They had time to pack papers, passports, instruments, paintings, and sentimental items such as a needlepoint passed down to Triff from her great-great-grandmother and a mask that Triff's daughter had made in the 7th grade. But not every resident immediately heeded the call to leave. Mike Martinez was still in Windsor on Sunday morning, even as he received endless alerts and the fire approached. "I've got a barn, a residence, and a lot of equipment a half mile from here," said Martinez, 69 years old. "I've also got a pool and some pumps, and I'm going to try and save it." The powerful winds could continue until at least the early afternoon. An extremely critical fire weather area, the National Weather Service's highest category, was in effect in several counties north of San Francisco. "This is probably one of the biggest weather incidents in California history," said Craig Clements, fire meteorologist at San Jose State University. Forecasters said low humidity and abnormally dry vegetation had created a tinderbox conditions which, combined with high winds, were plenty supportive of extreme fire spread. Weather Service forecasters predicted that winds could break between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. local time before weakening some by late afternoon or evening Sunday. They also warned that the dry, gusty winds are likely to continue through Monday morning. How much more of this article is there? Okay, as your power comes back on, the region expresses. So there's not. This is all about the Northern California fires. This is all Northern California. So the blackouts, which will, concerns about the fire expanding led Pacific Gas and Electric to conduct a massive power shutdown Saturday evening that will probably mark the largest planned outage in the state's history. And this is what's also historical about this podcast I'm doing, this broadcast I'm doing right now, because of this. Concerns about the fire expanding led Pacific Gas and Electric to conduct a massive power shutdown Saturday evening, that's yesterday, that will probably mark the largest planned outage in the state's history. The blackouts, which will affect 38 counties in all, began in Northern California around 5 p.m. local time Saturday and cascaded south through the state throughout the evening, according to a statement from the company. Actually, they already had a whole bunch of counties listed, but the number of counties increased yesterday evening. Central California's Kern County was slated to lose power Sunday evening. Kern County is about 200 miles from where I'm at, 200 miles northeast of San Diego County. Fresno and Madera counties also are expected to lose power at some point, but PG&E hasn't said when. In total, an estimated 960,000 customers, making up nearly 3 million people, are expected to be without power through the weekend. And San Diego County has also had a couple, 10,000 or so people that were without power at different times. Almost all outages had set in by Sunday afternoon. PG&E said its goal is to restore power to a vast majority of customers within 48 hours after the winds have died down. And Northern California and LA has PG&E, and San Diego has San Diego Gas and Electric. But PG&E and San Diego Gas and Electric are part of the main company called Sempra Energy, and they're on the stock market. I heard that their stock went from about $60 a share down to $5 something a share. $5 is now the time to buy if you got money. As PG&E customers plunged into this month's third extended blackout, outages caused now familiar disruptions for businesses and schools and spurred new concerns that some vulnerable residents who rely on power for medical care might not be prepared. Weather with high fire risk could cause another mass shutdown starting Tuesday, the company said. More than 30 counties could be affected. The region has experienced 2 years of incredibly destructive fires. The 2017 and 2018 California fire seasons brought the deadliest blazes in state history. I've got about 5 minutes left. As residents began to receive warnings of the Kincaid fire's imminent danger, some experienced uneasy flashbacks to the infernos that decimated parts of Northern California wine country 2 years ago. All we can do is hope and pray, said evacuee Ricky Sandtree. Stuff can be replaced, but your life is your life. And that's the end of that article. So that's a pretty good update. I don't have time to get into the specifically Los Angeles, but in Los Angeles and east in San Bernardino have some fires too, where some buildings were destroyed. So pray for California, pray for the United States, pray for loose lips sinking ships, pray for the people who are on those ships that are being sunk by loose lips, namely the swamp, our government, our janitors at the schools, the teachers, everybody. Just pray. Thank you guys for joining me, and have a wonderful day. Until the next time.